Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. And yesterday, Greg and I recorded a new Speaking Moistly, and it was really fun. We had a good time. And I talked about this story, but I'll tell you guys about this story again. I think it's really important because it's going to materially affect the internet and this show. I don't know if I'll be able to continue doing my show. They will almost certainly shut down Rebel. They will almost certainly give me a hard time. I hope I'll continue. I'm planning on continuing. I don't plan on stopping. Michael Geist says, new statement from Escalibo on Bill C-10. Despite claims of safeguards, government is removing a key safeguard that was essential to protection of free speech. Without it, all user-generated content is treated as programs to be regulated by the CRTC. As I just said to Evan Solomon, the amount of deception from Escalibo on Bill C-10 is astonishing. He told Canadians Bill C-10 has economic thresholds. It doesn't. Excludes news. It doesn't. Won't affect Canadian ownership. It doesn't. Is the same as Europeans' implementation. It isn't. And will generate money from creators this year. It won't. Now he says it doesn't implicate free speech rights when his own department told the committee it does. Time to hit the reset button on Bill C-10. Yeah, there's very concerning things coming out about this. Here's Aaron O'Toole. I said yesterday, I think that the Conservatives are just as excited about this as the Liberals are. And Aaron O'Toole is coming out and saying, no, actually, we don't agree with the removal of your rights. A little bit. He says, here they go again. Bill C-10 is another attempt by Trudeau Liberals to restrict freedom of speech in Canada. I'll oppose this at every stage of the legislative process. Now, I don't know when anybody in recent Canadian history has had a credible attack on freedom of speech that's been this direct and egregious, right? Like this is like, hey, if you make something and put it on YouTube, you are now subject to CRTC oversight, and you may not be able to do that anymore, despite the fact that you've been doing it for years. Sorry about your luck. Like you're just shut down. Sorry. Welcome to Canada, right? You're free. Go enjoy your freedom at the park, but not the skate park. Right? No, it's crazy. It's crazy what's happening. And Aaron O'Toole will fight this? Really? Okay. Well, the NDP say they're on board, so good luck, right? A majority minority, right? NDP open to supporting controversial broadcasting bill amendment. Oh, great. Wonderful, wonderful. In the redacted part of the show, you will be able to see what I think is happening around that. But until then, I'll have to stay quiet because YouTube doesn't like some certain things. And so I have to split my show into two parts. So the redacted parts on Rumble and BitChute and Odysee, and on the audio version that I upload to the podcasts all the time. And also, don't forget, I haven't been talking about this because I haven't fixed the problem yet. I know, I'm sorry. I'm working on it. I installed a brand new one. A brand new version of this program, not to get derailed or anything like that, but sign up for the email list if YouTube decides to shut me down. Anyway, I'm still working on the newsletter, not to get waylaid by a big story, okay? Or not to get waylaid into a big story from this big story. Okay, Don Martin is talking about the internet censorship as well, which is why we got waylaid to talk about making sure we had backups to get in touch with each other, right? Anyway, Don Martin says this is a very big deal. Knowing who to stand up for, Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault and the regulations of free speech. And that's the Michael Geist full column that is linked in the first tweet I read to you. And here is Pierre Poilievre, and he is talking about this exact thing. So the leader of the Conservatives is speaking out, the former finance critic, now jobs critic. Great work. Not even the finance critic is speaking. This guy's, Pierre Poilievre is putting together an argument against what's happening. Kind of a paper tiger is Pierre. But anyway, we'll listen to as much of this as makes sense. Here we go.
A hammer to intimidate freedom of expression. That's how one former commissioner of the CRTC described Bill C-10. A supposedly harmless bill that would simply bring big tech giants under the control of the Broadcast Act to create a level playing field, we were told. That is until experts revealed that the bill's true powers would be to censor and control what Canadians see, read, watch, and now even post on. Originally, they said that the posts that everyday people like you and I did on our social media and on YouTube and elsewhere would be excluded by a specific exemption contained in the bill. Well, that was until quite recently. when Liberals showed up at a parliamentary committee and quietly amended the bill to remove the exemption and put the bill in charge of the posts that you and I would make. Now, this, of course, is an attack on freedom of expression. We have Section 2B of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for a reason, to protect our ability to communicate our thoughts, our values, and our principles unimpeded by the state. But this bill would prevent us from doing so. It is a massive expansion of governmental power that Justin Trudeau is trying to slip in throughout the panic of a pandemic when he thinks nobody is watching. Well, I'm watching. You're watching. Conservatives, including our leader and our heritage critic, Erin O'Toole and Alan Gay.
Wouldn't it be nice to hear from them, though, right? Wouldn't it be nice if they actually spoke out rather than Pierre giving them a shout out on his couple-minute-long video on Twitter? You know, and it's cut by somebody else. I don't think that's Canada. This is Canaditude who cut this up. I think this is a YouTube video. But it's interesting to me. People are going to have to live in this, like people who are more powerful and much more rich than I am, and regardless of rich is just your level of how comfortable you are in society, right? And there are people who have a lot more money than me, like, you know, people who've got like houses in Muskoka that maybe they're not going to be able to go to, right? And like maybe houses in a different country, maybe they're already there, right? But there are people who maybe they're so rich that they've already got out of Dodge, right? But there are people who are going to be trapped in this that are going to be seriously and more impacted by this than I'm going to be in the immediate future anyway. And I don't understand why nobody's upset about this at all. It seems obvious to me. And again, the redacted portion, I'll talk about it a bit more, but it seems really obvious to me what's going on. Not obvious, but like there are very concerning signals, and it seems obvious that that it could go in a very bad direction very quickly. Like watching a shopping cart get away from you at a parking lot, right? Heading towards that car, and you're like, I'm going to have to pay for that, right? And it doesn't matter how much you want to catch up. You can't catch up, right? Seeing a kid fall from a swing or something like that. Same thing. You're like, oh, I want to be there. And you're not there. Sorry about your luck. Nothing you can do, right? If it gets away from us, all you can do is stand by and watch and like in horror, right? In horror. And that's what's happening. And I don't know why we can't get I do know why. I understand why we can't get a coherent response together. And you know, open the economy, do something that is based in, YouTube won't like this at all, right? So I do understand, but I am shocked at the lack of ability for citizens to organize. And it's incredible. It's incredible how stunted we've become in a very short period of time. 14 months is a very short period of time. Okay, getting into economics and governance. Inflation pressure hits consumers as firms pass along higher costs. Oh, is that what this is? Inflation pressure. Inflation pressure. We don't have inflation in Canada. It's fine. They've just rechecked. They've just rebalanced the basket of goods that they use to make sure inflation doesn't go up at all. Right? It's just around normal. It doesn't matter that gas is up and food costs are up and, you know, eggs are up. Blah blah blah. It doesn't matter so much. Here's lumber. Tango Mike says, well, there goes my plans. We have more trees than anywhere else in the world, and we can't mill our own stuff. April 2020 cost to build a wood deck using 2,400 board feet, 200 square feet. Okay, that's in April 2020, $936, about $1,000, right? And I don't know if that's taxes in or not. If that's pre-taxes, that's a pretty funny trick, right? And April 2021, from $936 to $3,696. That is a lot of money. And is that like reflective of bad policy? Is that reflective of the COVID? What is the reason for the inflation here? What is happening, right? Have you been to a grocery store lately, right? There are some things that I'm surprised that the prices are just what they've been, and there are other things I'm surprised at how expensive they are, right? Like I got some cheap pork the other day. I was like, wow, like $6 for this, pretty cheap, very, very cost effective, right? And I think it was on sale, but still, like the price is what it's always been, around $10 for the package that I usually get, and the weight is about the same. They haven't been skimping on it or anything like that. I know because I look for the heaviest one, and so, right, I'm surprised by certain things staying exactly the same price, but at the same time, I'm shocked at how expensive other things are, like. I don't know, chips are like $5 now, right? And that seems expensive. That seems very like costly, right? Pop is another thing. For 24 cans of cola, it's like $9 now, which I think is wild, and more, right? Like it's very expensive. So those types of things are very expensive. I've seen $11 boxes of Fruit Loops, right? Like that seems expensive to me too. And maybe I'm wrong, but it's wild. So when the wood deck is like when you were like, maybe we'll build a deck. Oh, we'll put it off this year. And then this happens. You're like, oh, I guess we shouldn't have put it off this year. Yikes, right? Yowza. So anyway, Aaron O'Toole says, because of Justin Trudeau's failure to get a deal done, jobs and contracts are at risk and millions of dollars will be lost. This is about the Montreal port strike. And this is yesterday. This was released. It says the Honourable Aaron O'Toole, leader of Canada's Conservatives, says yesterday the Port of Montreal went on strike. Despite 7 months of notice, the Liberal government failed to facilitate a negotiated settlement during that time. Just last year, a 19-day stoppage at the Port of Montreal is estimated to have cost $600 million. Canada is already in a recession and facing one of the highest unemployment rates in the G7. Workers and businesses cannot afford a work disruption at the Port of Montreal. So, here is, again, bad policy and bad governance, bad strategy, incompetent people in important positions not acting when they should to get things done. And this is the result. The people who pay are you and I. He says he's going to be supporting back to work legislation, but he's trying to blame the Liberals. Like, yeah, we'll put them back to work because we can't afford it. But the Liberals are to blame for this. Make that political hay there, Mr. O'Toole. Jason Kenny says, an important legal win for Alberta today and our strategy to protect the value of our resources. And it says, court upholds Alberta's right to turn off the oil taps to other provinces. Well, that's going to be fun. If we thought things were dire before, right? Have you heard of Line 5? Yeah. And there's no plan. Like, it goes back to the incompetence, like what Aaron O'Toole's talking about here with the Montreal port strike. It's the same incompetence for Line 5, right? It's the same lack of, they knew for years that Michigan wanted to shut this down. And if Trump was out of office, then probably this gets shut down because of the politics of the day, right? These well-funded environmental activists are well-funded and activists. And so they're doing what they do. And in doing what they do, they're getting things accomplished. Like pipelines are politically toxic and getting canceled, even though they represent 50% of the gasoline for Ontario and Quebec and 100% of the airplane fuel for Pearson International. So that seems really crazy. Anyway, so in related news, right? Like Alberta can turn off the taps at will. Great. Yay. Maybe people will start taking them seriously, right? Maybe BC and Alberta will have a whole different tone to their negotiations. Who knows? Ottawa rejected Ontario's offer to top up the federal sick leave program to $1,000 per week for provincial residents instead of creating its own. Provincial residents. Interesting. Ontario Labour Minister Monty McNaughton says the simplest, fastest way to get checks into workers' pockets is through the federal program. So they were going to top up the federal program, and the Fed said, no, I don't think so. Seems like they're trying to throw Doug Ford under the bus. We want sick leave, but we want you to come up with your own program and bankroll it yourself. Good luck with that. We don't have any money. Like, where are you going to come up with the money? For residents? For all residents. Show up in Ontario. Here's your UBI. It's an ever-expanding program, particularly with Roxham Road and our immigration policies, which are, I've been talking about for years. Despite warning signs and even padlocks, Toronto residents appear to be defying provincial COVID-19 regulations, playing basketball, tennis, volleyball, and exercising in outdoor facilities that are closed under the latest stay-at-home order. So there's civil disobedience going on. People are saying, yeah, all right, you've got this padlock here and I've got my free will, and these bolt cutters, right? So what are you going to do, right? So people are using the equipment. The thing is, the government can either, no and padlocks only work until you're no longer willing to enforce it. And the enforcement of this is going to require court, right? Charter violation, etc. People can dispute this because yes, there's maybe an emergency declared, right? And if you go into court saying, I'm not going to pay this, they'll say, well, there's an emergency, so you have to pay this. But if you question the validity of the emergency and like really say, like, let's see the data that these people are working with, I'd love to, right? There's tons of questions that have that give me pause, and no data is forthcoming, right? It's very, very interesting. So I think stuff like this is going to be interesting. You can only ban something up to the point of where you say no and you enforce the no, right? Like that's all a no is, right? Like you're banned from this. No. And then somebody says, okay, well, I'm going to do this anyway. So what are you going to do now? Like, what's the city going to do? Now, are they going to have police standing here to make sure people don't use the equipment, right? We're getting into a situation now where they're criminalizing what people are doing on their day-to-day basis. And if people aren't listening, then either the government's lost control and they need to rejig, or they need to reassert their control. It can't, I mean, I guess it can sit in this kind of quasi gray area, but as the screws turn, are we more free now than we were last year? No, right? Much less free, in fact, right? Now there's enforcement in place. Now there's tickets in place, but the courts don't work, right? So even if you get a ticket, it's kind of pointless, except that you can't get to the place you're going to. Maybe you're going to Toronto, maybe you're going to Niagara Falls, maybe you're going wherever, right? And you can't go there, but you can't get there because you're stopped. And then you can't address that because the courts are down, right? But at the same time, you can't pay your ticket or address the lawlessness of the ticket as well because the courts are down. So we're stuck in a situation because of this medical situation. We're stuck without representation. We're stuck without the ability to hold our leaders to account, to hold the law enforcement to account of upholding our laws to a reasonable degree, right? And when people say, yeah, but your rights can be suspended because of the emergency and because of the Constitution, yeah, the rights can be suspended, but it has to be proportional. It has to make sense, right? I used this the other day, but it's like saying you have to eat a kilogram of cheese and in order to stop speeding on the 401, right? Like the kilogram of cheese and being in your stomach is not going to change speeding on the 401. It has to make sense. It can't be completely disjointed from why cheese in the 401. I don't know, but it can't be completely disjointed from the goal of the thing. And it has to be able to be shown to actually impact what you're trying to do, right? Like, so the government being all vague and stuff, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's very, very, very concerning what's going on. So we'll see if they decide to enforce, if they decide to turn the screws, if they decide to put a police officer at all of these things across the city, or just problematic ones. In Guelph, they've got security cameras at the fenced off skate parks, and they're keeping the skate parks fenced off even after the province opens the skate parks to keep you safe, citizen. And they're going to have a security guard there, right? Just to make sure you're conditioned to being watched over. Thank you. Appreciate it, Guelph. Heart. Right? No. Awful, terrible. Terrible. Speaking of terrible, this guy is, he's apparently a Dungeons and Dragons playing. Oh, hold on. We're just going to move over to the redacted part of the show here. Just give me a second. I'm going to put on the cutscene. So thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm going to go over and do the rest of the show on Rumble and Odysee and the rest of the places that I put this BitChute. And thanks for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.